Legion of Doom may have just been dethroned in DC Dark Legion as the best PvP team, and today we're going to talk about why. Now, while I do have a fairly well-built roster, I definitely don't have the champions that are required for this team comp, at least not at the levels that they need to be for it to work. Fortunately, friend of the channel and beta server whale Arcaluck has agreed to share some footage of him utilizing this comp, and actually a lot of the credit, pretty much all the credit, should go to Arcaluck for coming up with this team comp. But in this video, we're going to talk about why the team comp works, and we're also going to take a look at two different battles that he was willing to share with me, and we'll look at the battle reports as well so you can see exactly what he was going up against, because I really do think this is a significant discovery, and it's something that, although I think a lot of global players are pretty safe for a little while until these champions show up in the global servers and beyond. But as soon as they do hit, I definitely think that there's going to be a big shakeup in the PvP meta. So we'll break some of this down a little bit when we're watching the actual videos, but it is kind of difficult to follow the fights in Meta Brawl because they happen really, really fast, especially if you have a lot of assassins jumping around on the battlefield. And there are a couple of things that you need to understand about why this team works before you see the footage for yourself. So you'll see that the basic setup is to have Queen Hippolyta in the off-tank position with Dr. Fate in the tank position. And then you've got Raish, Talia, and Deathstroke on the back line. This team is going to have two tag synergies. So you're going to be getting the League of Assassins tag synergy and the Metahuman tag synergy. Having Queen Hippolyta in the lineup allows you to get that Metahuman tag synergy. As a reminder, League of Assassins tag synergy means that champions will increase their physical damage by 30% when they're below 70%. And this tag synergy is going to be in effect for Talia, Raish, and Deathstroke. For the Metahuman, you're going to be getting increased attack and HP percent, and that's going to apply to Hippolyta, Raish, and Talia. Now, the first and probably the most important thing that you need to know about this team comp is that Queen Hippolyta at 5 red stars with her staff at 0 stars will be able to instantly ult at the start of the battle. I have done a little bit of testing with my 5 yellow star Queen Hippolyta, who also has the staff, and she ults pretty much at the beginning of the battle, but there is about a half-second delay. If you have her at 5 red and 0 star staff, you're going to do it instantly, and that is key to how this lineup works. And it's worth pointing out that 5 stars is the breakpoint for this champion, meaning that the 5-star ability is what kind of makes this kit work. And so you have to get them to that 5th star at whatever level to see any benefit. That's why I have mine at 5 yellow. And I think the other important thing to note here is that if you do have the staff on Queen Hippolyta, she will be able to heal herself a little bit whenever she's ulting, and that's going to give her a little bit of sustain to get to the next ult. If you can get a couple of ults off with Queen Hippolyta, it's probably over with this matchup. And so, you know, it's quite important to try to have as much sustain on her as you possibly can. Now, the other important thing about Queen Hippolyta in this lineup is that she's going to give a shield to the lowest HP champion. And because of the way Raish's kit works, and I know I haven't done a Weller skip on him, so if I'm one of the only people that you're watching content on the game for, you probably haven't heard me talk too much about him, but we'll get into that just a little bit for this video. Basically, the way his kit works, she's probably going to be granting that shield to him pretty much the entire fight. The long and short of that is that he's going to be draining his own HP in order to increase his attack before each basic attack. The other important pieces to the lineup, you're going to have Deathstroke, who has his katanas, and that's going to enhance his lifesteal and help him sustain himself through the battle as well. And then Talia is going to be gaining HP every time she gets a kill. So you've got this kind of crescendo of ways that you're able to keep your champions alive without needing a dedicated healer and without needing to use the star bolts at all. So it's actually a quite genius setup here for doing a massive amount of damage very quickly and then being able to stay alive. I think that's one of the things that probably hurts Legion of Doom the most is if you're able to sustain that first volley, sometimes you are going to be able to win that fight. And that's why champions like Queen Hippolyta, I really think, are going to shake up the meta because of the way their kits work. Now, I mentioned Raish a second ago being the key to this lineup. And if you look at his ultimate and his first basic ability, both of them will sacrifice a percentage of HP in order to grant additional attack. You can see that here on the ultimate. For every 1% of max HP lost, damage is increased by 1%. It's going to be quite significant towards the middle to the end of the fight for sure. And you'll see that he does have this passive ability on top of the two sacrificial abilities that he already has, where before each basic attack, so the non-skill ability attacks, he's going to sacrifice 4% of his max HP, and then he's going to deal an additional amount of physical damage equal to a percentage of his attack. If we go over to the collection, we can look at a max level Raish so you can see exactly what Arkaluk is working with here. And you can see that his ultimate is going to be doing physical damage equal to 1500% of his attack. And then the passive is still only 100% of his attack. But it's significant because this is going to be happening a ton. You're going to keep sacrificing down that HP, and eventually it's going to get down to 1%. And then the idea is all the shields are going to keep Raish and the rest of the team alive. In particular, that shield that's on Queen Hippolyta that will target the lowest HP team member is going to basically shield Raish for the rest of the fight. There is a potential that she might target like your Dr. Fate, for example, if he were to go down pretty quickly at the beginning of the fight. But for the most part, it's always going to go to Raish because his HP percentage is always going to stay at 1% once the fight gets going. Again, he has no real way to heal himself. And then also getting down to that 1 HP is going to give him his maximum possible damage boost that you can get. Just to make sure we're covering all of our bases here and you can get a sense for how much damage output this team is capable of. Arkaluk does have his Deathstroke at 5 red stars. He has the Katana at, I believe, 0 stars. But at full red stars, his ultimate is going to do 2200% of his attack on an enemy. And then his first basic skill is going to do damage equal to 1200% of his attack. And that's the one where he jumps behind the lines at the beginning of the battle. So a significant amount of damage, like 1200% versus Raish's 1500% on his max ultimate. So very, very significant amount of damage. And Deathstroke should be doing this ability about every 10 seconds or so in the battle. And that's one of the reasons why Deathstroke is one of the best PvP champions in the game. Quick look at Talia, and you can see that she's able to do 1000% of her attack on her ultimate. And she's also got one of these similar abilities where she can jump behind a target and do percent damage to them as well. She's going to be sacrificing her HP to gain energy. She's also going to increase her crit rate very significantly. And anytime an enemy is defeated, she's going to restore a percentage of her max health for each League of Assassins ally present. And since there are going to be 3, she'll restore 30% of her max HP each time you're able to kill an enemy. We talked a little bit about Queen Hippolyta's kit. Everybody already knows how Dr. Fate's kit works. He's going to be granting a massive amount of shields to your team as well. But the real key to this team is basically that once you're able to deal with a couple of those big heavy hitting damage dealers, if you have a wall like Scarecrow left that you're having to deal with, Raish is going to be able to take care of him pretty handily. It does take a little time, and you'll see that with at least one of the battles that we're going to watch. It takes a second for Arkaluk's team to be able to kill Scarecrow towards the end of the battle. But that's really it in a nutshell. A team that doesn't do any healing but grants a massive amount of shields, allows Raish to wreak havoc because of the massive amount of damage he's doing at low health, And so far, with a decent amount of testing, he's had really good luck with using this team setup. I know he's going to continue to try to refine the approach, and so we'll probably come back and take another look at how all this works down the road and see how it's going. We'll definitely want to continue to do some of these meta reports for PvP, so be on the lookout for that. Now, the last thing I will say is Arkaluk did tell me he tried to use Red Hood in place of Deathstroke just to see what some of the other League of Assassins champions could do. And the issue was that his health dropped way faster than Raish's did, which means that Queen Hippolyta gave the shield to Red Hood, and it led to a team wipe way quicker. And the last sort of preliminary thing that you need to know about this team is that Raish is going to dash back behind the enemy line faster than Lex is going to be able to ult. And Lex is going to target Raish, which is basically going to make your entire team, or at least your damage dealers, avoid the Lex ult. Now, it is a little bit different in this situation because you've got 3 characters that are going to be jumping to the back. But for the most part, Hippolyta and Dr. Fate will be left alone and not bothered by Lex so that they can keep pumping out the shields. And even if you do get hit by Lex, you're probably going to be able to survive it because of the massive amount of shields that are being granted. All right, so we're going to take a look at the first PvP battle. You'll see that we've got 2 Superman ships here, so obviously this combat is probably not going to be representative of what most of you are facing. And I'll also note that obviously Arkaluk's Apocalypse levels and his Superman ship are quite a bit more developed than the opponent here, but I still feel like they're on pretty equal footing, and we are going to take a look at the gear used and the equipment used here, so I think you'll find that quite interesting. And so you'll see immediately that Raish and Deathstroke jump to the back line, and Raish is able to take out Lex almost immediately. They're able to make quick work of all the rest of the team. And the most problematic champion for this team ends up being the Scarecrow, who is able to continue to self-sustain and heal itself. And you also notice that during the fight, you're seeing a lot of shields, like massive amounts of shield on all your champion. And if you actually look on the right-hand side of your screen, you can see that Raish's health bar is pretty much 99% full of shield rather than health. And that was something that we talked about a little bit earlier when we were discussing the fight and kind of the overview for the team. And that's really what we want. We don't want him to get healed. We want him to continue to get those shields to keep him alive while he continues to reduce his health pool. And then that's going to allow him to jump in towards the end of this battle and take care of Scarecrow finally. And you can see he was able to do that. Now here is the battle stat screen, and I think it's fairly interesting. It tells a pretty compelling story. So if we look at the opponent's gear and legacy pieces, you can see that they have extensively invested in several of the legacy pieces. Nightwing's legacy piece is at 5 yellow stars. We've got Sinestro's at 5 purple stars. We also have Scarecrow's at 5 purple stars. And he's using Martian Manhunter with a 5 blue Kuru pendant, which I talked about this on the channel as well. And you really do have to get that Kuru pendant up to 5 blue stars for viability at in-game PvP. But really well invested team here for this person. And actually, if you look at Nightwing's gear, they are really, really close to having the 5th level of transmute on 2 pieces of gear. It looks like the boots and the belt. And that's going to open up a set bonus for Nightwing, which is going to make him even more strong. But again, high investment on the transmutes and on the legacy pieces for this team. Now, if you contrast that with Arkaluk's team, obviously, you know, both teams are at full 5 red stars on all champions. But if you take a look at the legacy pieces on Arkaluk's side, 0 stars on Talia's legacy piece, 0 stars on Hippolyta. We got 0 stars on Deathstroke and 0 stars on Raish. Now, obviously, he does have all of those legacy pieces on his account, but the fact that those are at 0-star investment level, and then also you can look at, he's got some pretty cheeky gear selections here. I guarantee he's probably got some better gear than this for a few of these champions, but some of these don't even have transmutes on them. So, you know, look at Talia. She doesn't even have any transmutes on anything except for her headpiece. We've got Hippolyta, who has just gray level 1 transmutes on all of her gear. Dr. Fate's gear has very small transmutes on them. Deathstroke has a decent amount of transmute, some level 2s. And then we have Raish, who only has 2 pieces of gear that are transmuted. And we talked about Raish being the true kind of win condition or damage engine for this team. The fact that he's barely got any force on this champion just tells me a lot. And again, I'm not trying to like clickbait or anything here. I truly believe this is the downfall of Legion of Doom as the undisputed champion of PvP. I'm not saying that Legion of Doom is going to disappear. On the contrary, I think they're going to continue to be in the meta. I just think that now we're going to have a clear way to deal with that team if people are willing to put that investment in. And I know at the whale level they will, but you know, at the lower levels, if you can put together a team like this, you're probably going to be pretty happy with your progress. Okay, so we're going to do the second video here, and you're going to see a lot of the same thing. The backline is already taken out very quickly in the battle. Got a couple of champions to take care of here at the very end, and again, same situation, kind of a separate or different set of champions that you're going up against here, but we're still having to deal with a very pesky Scarecrow at the end. And again, you're going to see Raish, I believe, over on the right-hand side of the screen, and he is all the way down. His health bar is all the way down. He's got shield all the way up, and that's allowing him to do a little bit more damage. Now, this one did take a little bit more time to deal with, but we are, I mean, clearly able to take care of it within the final time limit. So, and that's pretty much it. So let's take a look at the gear screen for this battle as well. And so again, we can see pretty much the same investment, or, you know, the same gear that we saw in the first battle for Arkaluk's team. But if we look at the opponent, we've got a different set of champions. As I mentioned, we've got Hawkgirl in here, but otherwise this is a full Legion of Doom setup, all full red stars, and significant investment in the transmutes as well as the legacy pieces. So we've got a 5 yellow star Sinestro ring, 5 yellow star Scarecrow scythe. We've got 5 yellow star katanas on Deathstroke, which is just crazy. And then, you know, 5 red star Tectonic Disruptor on your Lex Luthor. And then several champions that have their gear transmuted to level 4 or higher. Lex has got a level 4. We've got Deathstroke with 1 level 5. And looks like we've got Sinestro with a level 5 and a level 4. So just incredible investment in transmutes. And that translates to a lot of additional damage and a lot of additional stats on this team. And this team comp from Arkaluk was able to basically dispense with all the damage dealers almost immediately and then take care of Scarecrow before the time ran out. So you tell me. I'll let you decide. Leave me a comment down below and let me know whether you think this team comp is going to be the downfall of Legion of Doom once it becomes available to most of the player base. I really enjoyed doing this breakdown, and I really appreciate Arkaluk for sharing a couple of these videos with me. We're definitely going to continue to collaborate on some whale level PvP concepts and some other things. So this won't be the last that you've seen of Arkaluk on the channel, most likely. Definitely wanting to do kind of a monthly video where we talk about PvP meta. So be on the lookout for some of that in the future. And if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to the channel. It will definitely help out with the algorithm. We're also approaching the 5,000 subscriber mark. We're going to hit it within the next couple of weeks. I'm super excited about that. Once we get there, we're going to be doing some giveaways, so be on the lookout for that. And if not, I will see you in the next video.